Hey everyone, welcome to the video version of the Reviving Vet Med podcast. Today, I am very excited to be sharing with you another interview, and this episode's interview is with Avery Alston, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Veterinary Emergency Group. Avery brings a wealth of experience in operations, training, and leadership development, and she's known for building inclusive cultures that empower teams to do their best work. The reason this conversation came about is because this year, World Veterinary Day's theme is Animal Health Takes a Team. And I wanted to address that through the lens of DEI. So, from psychological safety to representation in the workplace, we talk about how creating space for all voices isn't just good for people, it's essential for patient care and performance. So, whether you're a practice leader, a veterinary associate, a new grad, or just passionate about making vet med a better place to be, there's something in this episode for you. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, well, hi, Avery. Welcome to our conversation. I am so happy to get the chance to talk to you today.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to jump right in, and I want to hear a little bit about your story. I know that you've had several roles at Veterinary Emergency Group focused on culture and DEI. Can you tell us a bit about your journey into this work and what drives your passion for helping others find belonging at work?
Yeah, so actually, fun fact, I don't come from veterinary medicine. I always like to say that I'm supposed to be here because I snuck my first dog in the house at 16, and now my parents have four of them. And so I've helped them find their love for animals too. Um, but I actually started in big box retail management. And I consider myself as the manager that always got sent to what was the trouble store or somewhere that needed to fix the culture, which I actually don't believe to be a thing, but we'll get into that. Um, and I got a call from Veg, and I knew that this is where I was supposed to be. So I started as a hospital manager actually. Then did that for a while and then moved on to our culture team and was in charge of basically introducing our new employees to the veg way, which is our culture. What is veg all about? And then from there moved on to people. And so there was a lot of imposter syndrome, especially not coming from vet med. I was always a manager who was very hands-on. I knew that I could do things faster, better than my team, and I could show them how to get there. So any of the expectations that I put on my team, I knew that they could be done. And coming into vet med, I was like, I don't know anything here. How is my team going to respect me? How am I supposed to get them to, do anything if I can't even do what they do? But I've realized over time that no matter what position I held at Veg, my passion has been helping people enjoy where they work.
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that we spend 90% of our time at work, awake at least at work. And how sucky is it to not enjoy or feel like you belong or feel like you have a voice or you're appreciated at minimum where you work at? And that's carried me through every position. And I've realized you really get that through just talking to people and treating them like humans,
Hmm.
right? Figuring out who they are. And so I think that no matter what position I've held at Veg, my why has always been how do we get people to feel valued, feel that
Hmm.
they're truly a part of the team.
Hmm.
And that's led me here today in my work in DEI.
I love that. Well, I am so glad that you crossed over into the world of vet medicine because we certainly can use you, and I know you're doing wonderful things. It's interesting because the World Veterinary Day theme for 2025 is Animal Health Takes a Team. And I'm wondering what this theme means to you in the context of DEI.
Yeah, I even in retail management, I was a general manager, and so I had managers underneath me, and I told them that you are nothing without your team,
Mhm.
even as leaders, right? And I think that actually defines the difference between when you talk about a leader and a manager. I always see a manager as people who delegate, tell you what to do. A leader will show you the way, explain the why. And I think that they understand that they need their team.
Mm-hmm.
And because no matter what you're trying to achieve, you can't get that done. And when you see the amount of different people that you can have on your team and really understand them as individuals, only then can you utilize them to their full potential.
Mm-hmm.
And so talking about like it takes a team is you it takes those diverse perspectives, those diverse backgrounds, diverse voices in order to really bring upon like the greatest things. And so if you don't take the time to understand your team and what motivates them, because not one thing motivates every single person,
Mm-hmm.
um, you won't again, if you're money driven, even if that's what you care about, and some leaders do, if you're financially driven, you won't see the revenue that you would if you don't have a team that works together collectively, and again feels appreciated, to and wants and motivated to do the work. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really how I see it. It takes all of us working together to achieve a common goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the journey towards that common goal is going to be so much more effective and probably efficient in the long run if we do incorporate those diverse perspectives and diverse backgrounds and everything else. So I love that. In your experience, how does a culture of inclusion support better teamwork and communication? So making sure that everyone feels included in the process. How does that impact team dynamics and other things in your experience?
Yeah, if I look at it as if you and I are working together, but I don't feel like I can speak up or I don't have a voice to share my opinion, then I'm just going to go along day to day and I'm going to just do come in and check a box.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm just going to do what I need to do to get done and maybe even skim below the surface if I can, right? Because I have no say. I don't feel like I have anything to offer. And if something goes wrong, I don't feel like maybe it's not my issue.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're able to share, I do believe like truly including people is saying, hey, we're all sitting here. How can I pull out a chair and tell you that, hey, you can sit here too?
Mm-hmm.
And not just have a seat at the table, but I'm including you in the conversation of, hey, what did you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is the way we've been doing things, but I noticed that you do it differently. Why is that? Like, how did you get to that point? And that's how I think it increases efficiency, but that's when we talk about like innovation. That's how that comes
Mm-hmm.
about. When people feel that they can share their voices and they feel included, in that. And that's so important
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise you don't understand. You have all these people on your team and they have no say. You don't know who they are, and you don't know what their needs are or what more they can offer
Mm-hmm.
even. And so that's why you want people to be able to speak up and share and actually and have a voice on your team.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm hearing is that inclusion really does allow people to speak up, right? It fosters that sense of psychological safety where, if somebody sees something that could be done better or differently, or they see something that nobody else sees, that they have a voice to share that. They feel as though it's safe to share that. I imagine, that contributes to better patient outcomes as well, because I think about mistakes that happen that are almost always a result of a systemic problem or a systems issue. And if nobody wants to say anything, even though their input could potentially prevent that mistake from happening again, that's going to be detrimental to the team and the patients long term.
Yeah, 100%. And if I so often too, there's that shame, right, of even being able to speak up when especially when it comes to medical quality. If they don't feel like they're belong and included, usually they're working towards that. Everybody wants to be included.
Hmm.
It's a human need. Like we need a sense of belonging. And
Hmm.
so in me striving to belong and feeling like I don't, there's no way I'm going to admit my mistakes.
Mm.
Because otherwise, I'm just going to feel like, and we know this historically in Vet Med, right? That we work with a lot of type A personalities. And
Hmm.
so that's just another, again, barrier even that like would prevent somebody from feeling like they can speak up and share their point of view. And so important too for again, not even innovation, but how we see the people that walk through our buildings and how we can offer a better customer experience even.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, if you already feel like you don't really belong or you're not included in the team, the last thing you want to do is kind of feel even more on the outs by sharing, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, or I made this mistake. You're
Yep.
going to feel like that's going to push you even farther away, which is goes against our survival instincts, right? As human beings.
Yep.
What do you think are the common barriers to belonging in veterinary workplaces, especially for those with underrepresented identities? And how do those barriers impact a person's well-being?
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting. I don't think the barriers that exist are intentional,
Hmm
usually, especially when it comes to underrepresented groups. But when you are a part of the majority, you don't understand what it feels like to walk in a room where nobody looks like you. And so I tell this to our teams all the time. You can, if I asked everyone in a room to raise their hand if they thought that they were an exclusive person, someone who purposely tried to exclude others, nobody would raise their hand. Everyone thinks, we're welcoming, we're friendly, we're nice. But it's more than that, especially for people that walk in and again are maybe one of two or one of one.
hmm
Whether it be again feeling like you can even relate to someone else. I always say if you walk into a room and there's no tables available, or like there's tables available, for instance, and you can sit with people, a group of people who look like you, or
hmm
you can sit with a group of people who do not look like you. You're going to sit with people who look like you because you feel like you have more in common. You'll automatically be accepted. You have things to talk about, right? So being on the opposite end of that, when there is no option for you to sit with a group of people that look like you, you're innately feeling like, am I going to be accepted? What do I have to talk about? All right. And so no matter if we say hi or like, hey, and we seem nice, it's about really going out of our way as the majority to, again, not just pull out the chair and say, hey, you can sit here, but engage them in actual conversation and try to learn about them as much as we can about their experience and where they've come from and like maybe not ethnicity or identity wise, but where they come from, even professionally,
Yeah.
right? What are their experiences like?
hmm
And so I think there's invisible barriers that we don't often see or think about. I've seen it even with personalities. It doesn't necessarily have to be underrepresented groups. It could be personalities that are not again, that are a little bit unique. It could be actually, we hear it all the time too, extroverted versus introverted. And so the people on your team who are quieter,
hmm
right? How do we bring them into the conversation and make sure like, okay, maybe they don't want to speak up as a large group of people, but maybe I can sit with them one-on-one and still get their insight, right? See how their day was, have them, speak up in a more private environment.
hmm
But I think it is extremely uh, difficult to include people that, again, in the way that really makes them feel seen. It's the little things, right? Of even like remembering someone's name correctly, pronouncing it
hmm
correctly. We call them micro affirmations, right? Listening intently and stopping everything that you're doing to focus on what they're saying. Um, but especially in ER medicine, things are moving so fast
hmm
that we're not being intentional about the moments that we have with our coworkers.
hmm
And so you do have to kind of retrain your mind to remember that this person is different and it's okay. And I want to recognize them because they're different. I don't want them to feel that they have to be the same. And I want to take their experience and learn about it as someone who is coming from an underrepresented group, whatever that may look like. And so I think it's intentional actions, small actions that we can
hmm
take every day to make those people feel included because
hmm
there's a lot of barriers that they come in with just on their end that nobody has to create for them.
hmm
Um, so
Yeah, that's so helpful. I love that term micro affirmations. Like you say, those little intentional ways of really making sure that all members of the team feel included. I guess it goes back to that innate human need to feel seen, heard, understood, and valued, right?
Yeah.
And if a person might already feel, like you said, because they look different, act different, sound different, whatever it is, that inherently they're not able to achieve that feeling of really being understood and valued.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really helpful advice for everyone on the team. Um, you've touched on this already, and I mentioned psychological safety before. Um, and I know that this is a lot of the work that you do in terms of creating spaces where people do feel safe to speak up and share ideas or admit mistakes. What do you feel is fundamental to creating that sense of psychological safety in the workplace?
Yeah, I usually say this to leaders, but I think that everyone's a leader or could be in their own right. And when I speak about leading, it's modeling the way. And so a lot of times, I think the first step is just showing that you're human, right? Being vulnerable
Hmm.
and opening up yourself, right? Realizing and admitting your own mistakes that you make.
Hmm.
And so I think that's the first state because it says, okay, it is okay to make a mistake. It is okay to be struggling today with your mental health or however you're feeling, right? It's okay to come in and not be at 60, 100%. And you had a really tough shift the other day and you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
Because again, that's the great part of having it, just back to your other question, that's the great part of having a team is that if you're feeling 63, then maybe I can give a little bit more because I have it in me today. But you
Hmm.
have to be yourself, like you yourself have to be willing to have that vulnerability and
Hmm.
speak up about what you're truly feeling, or again, whether you did something even great. Because oftentimes we talk about like, oh, when you make a mistake, because we're always focused on what we can fix as professionals.
Hmm.
We're never focused on all the things that go right.
Hmm.
But you also have to train that muscle too. People need to feel good, okay, and empowered to celebrate their
Hmm.
wins. And I often don't see us do that. And some
Hmm.
people are scared, or I hear people say, oh, I'm just this, or I'm just an assistant, or I'm just, you know, a nurse. And no, you are a veterinary nurse. You are a doctor. You are
Hmm.
a great doctor, right? And so I think it starts with you and your vulnerability and you creating again and being okay with admitting whatever it is that it is that
Hmm.
you focus on. And then I think the next step is how do you lend that to someone else?
Hmm.
Right. And so when we talk about creating psychologically safe spaces, micro affirmations go into listening, showing that you care, right? That you're genuinely interested in them as a human being and not just as whatever you need them for in that
Hmm.
moment.
Hmm.
And making them feel like, okay, I trust you, and maybe you gave me really tough feedback, but I trust that it came from a great place. And I feel okay to challenge you on maybe some of those things.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe again we're using a new POS, like and I'm struggling with it and I don't think it's great because our patients, I don't have the ability to put in treatments the way that I or as quickly as I could or efficiently as I could. But even though you're my leader, I know that I can talk to you about that because I know you care about patient care as much as I
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
Right. And so I think it's really about getting its first step, vulnerability, being open and honest about whatever it is that you're speaking on, but then knowing your team, getting to know your team, paying
Hmm.
attention to them, listening to them,
Hmm.
seeing them as a person, as a person first before anything else.
Hmm.
And then because you understand them and you have that relationship with them, you know the questions to ask. They
Hmm.
again trust you that you're, doing or having these conversations for the right reasons.
Hmm.
And they know that what they are saying or what they have to say is going to be heard.
Hmm.
Because I think when we talk about safety, it's not just about me feeling like I can say it, but that when I do say it, I'll be listened to.
Mm, totally.
Right. And
Yeah.
so if they feel okay to say it, they're not going to say anything if they feel like it's falling on ears
Hmm.
that don't want to hear them, right?
Hmm.
So we need to make sure that people know that we do care and that their opinions and their
Hmm.
feedback are warranted, not only, but also we want them and because they're a stakeholder.
Yeah.
Again, you're nothing without your team. And so if you
Hmm.
believe that you need your team, then we
Yeah.
need their feedback and their feelings too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Inviting that feedback and following up on it, or
yeah,
really taking it to heart rather than dismissing it, I think is so
yeah,
crucial, like you said.
yeah.
Avery, you've spoken a lot publicly on LinkedIn and elsewhere about veg doing the work year round. What are some specific practical strategies that veg has implemented to embed DEI into everyday team culture?
Yeah, so when I got into this role, one of the biggest things to me was that DEI, and I don't believe at anywhere that DEI exists, that it can be a program. It has to be a part of every single thing that you do. They're not words plastered in a handbook or on a wall. They are action. Feel the same way about allyship. I feel like it shouldn't be a noun, it should be a verb.
Mhm.
Um, and I think again, it's how we treat each other. It's really when I break down it shouldn't be okay, yeah, it's like Black History Month or AAPI month is coming up and we want to celebrate those things. Those, yes, that does, make people feel good and people feel seen, but those come around once a year. And so it's the little actions that we can take to show that we truly see, you mentioned it earlier, but like see and value you. And so even on a hospital level, it's okay, I know that Marie is really big on her birthday.
Mhm.
And so I can get everyone here to sign a card and say, Happy birthday, Marie, and get her
Mhm.
favorite food, right? I
Mhm.
also know that Sammy does not want any attention on her birthday,
Mhm.
but does really appreciate a good, maybe like, I don't know, a pen, right? Or something like she's big on pens,
Mhm.
right? And so I can quietly give her a pen
Mhm.
to add to her backpack,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Those are the small things that you can do to affirm people and make them feel seen every day.
Mhm.
Pronouns, right? Having someone that maybe uses non-traditional, as we would call them, like pronouns, right? Or something that's new for the team.
Mhm.
Instead of making them feel isolated and only giving them pronoun pins,
Mhm.
why don't I now introduce name tags that everyone has pronouns on them? And so that it becomes a part of our culture
Mhm.
that we just use everyone's pronouns and make sure that we're using them correctly.
Mhm.
Um, Again, it could be recognizing that something that is not a part of American tradition. So on their like Ramadan is starting up and noticing that you have maybe one or two employees that celebrate or recognize Ramadan
Mhm.
and not plastering it over a wall, but in like sending out a group chat and saying, hey, just so you know, Ramadan is starting.
Mhm.
Please make sure that we're keeping an eye out, or keeping an eye out for these employees, letting them take their breaks when they need to pray, or again, even just maybe not eating in front of them if they're having a hard time. And these are things that I just want to call out that you find out from your employees before you go and decide this is what they want, right? But if I have a talk with my employees and would you see it or see best that your team support you through this time? They tell
Mhm.
me, and then I carry that out. And so it's little small actions like that that we do on a day-to-day basis of how
Mhm.
we treat people and the culture that we want to create. And then you have big things on the more operational side, right? Of even Marie, like what you worked on with our nursing team on nursing schedule guidelines,
Mhm.
right? Making sure that we are setting our nurses up for success on during their shifts, right? Or throughout their scheduling to make sure that they have enough rest in between. Or it's hiring bias training that is now mandatory for all leaders so that we can not only widen our talent pool, but make sure that we're equitably assessing talent when they come through our doors if they do look different or maybe don't show up how we
Yeah.
expect them to.
Mm,
And so I think there's organizational things like that that we do, but then there's also the day-to-day
mm,
things. Um, we again, it could be ergonomical equipment, right? Making sure we just like we have the right equipment for our teams to make sure they can actually have the longevity in this career
mhm,
because we know it's highly physically demanding.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on so many things, and it's so clear in our this conversation, but you and I have had many conversations, over the last couple of years, how big of an intersection there is between well-being and DEI. I mean, just so much of it goes hand in hand, and it's really not possible to have one without the other. You mentioned representation and intentional hiring practices and so on. How can veterinary workplaces be more intentional about representation, not just in hiring, but mentorship, leadership, decision making? What strategies do you recommend?
Yeah, I think you have to, and this is tough, right? Because again, I think we all think that we are inclusive and that we want the best for people. But the the truth is that we only know our experience. And so I think it starts with you have to want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find why representation matters to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't, especially in veterinary medicine, where we are 90% white and female, then it's going to be very easy to not find that representation. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to just walk through your doors by the boatload. It's not going to happen. And so you have to find why you want your team to be representative of the community that you serve.
Mm-hmm.
Which is if I think that is and I always say DEI, part of DEI is meeting people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you don't truly believe, which is again, I understand everybody is not as passionate about this work, but even if it comes to your bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
the truth of the matter is the US is a huge melting pot, right? Our population is consistently getting more and more diverse. Pet owners are consistently getting more and more diverse. And who better than to help a customer
Mm-hmm.
that actually understands them and comes from their same background in their community? And so at least is it can impact your bottom line. How nice is it for a customer that maybe doesn't speak English to walk into a hospital and be able to speak their first language with someone, or even just seeing them? What a
Mm-hmm.
breath of fresh air it is for them. Right. And so if that has to be your why, that's fine. Your why might also be that everyone deserves the same chance, and I want my hospital to be different than we've ever done anything before.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts with you finding a why. You have to find the why you want representation in your hospital, why it matters. And
Mm-hmm.
once you do that, then there's this shift that happens. And then you start seeing, oh, I can go to this event, or oh, I can tap in to the LVMA, I can tap into NABV, I can tap into this network and see, where I can find, these people. Or maybe I start working in the community and seeing, oh, like my everybody loves teaching. I think that I get feedback on that sometimes, but I think that we work in an industry where everybody's super passionate. And how can you not want to extend that to someone? It doesn't mean that you want to be an instructor or anything, but people love showing things. And so like, oh, I found that my team is very passionate about teaching. Why don't I just, partner with this school and in a
Mm-hmm.
underrepresented community and have them inspire young Black and brown, kids that they can be in, veterinary medicine,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or we talk about abilities. a lot. Like it's not something that we're talking about a lot now, but it's not something that's really spoken about at all within veterinary medicine. Where can I go and say like, oh, I can go to this school and show that like, yes, you don't have to be this type of person or, be fully mobile or have all these, access to these things to be able to work in veterinary medicine. Um, and so it causes you, in order to diversify veterinary medicine and show representation, we have to think outside the box
Mm-hmm.
because the diversity is not just going to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to do that, you have to find your why for wanting to
Mm-hmm.
do the work because it's not easy work.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah.
What would you suggest for teams or individuals that are just starting this work? What is one low barrier action that they could take today to move towards building that more inclusive and connected workplace?
Yeah, I think just start asking about other people's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So often we have diversity in front of us in some sort of way,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's always diversity of thought. Even if and nothing else, there's always diversity of thought.
Yeah.
But our affinity bias, right, are the things that attract us to people who are like us. We hear about it all the time. I want like-minded people on our team, or I want people who fit, like they fit the culture, like they
So
just not
true.
a good fit. We say it all the time, right? We have our people, right?
Yeah.
I challenge everyone. Go to someone who you don't organically
Yeah.
just mesh with, right? Or that you don't maybe think is your person. And
Mm-hmm.
just find out a little bit more about them.
Mm-hmm.
You could ask them questions and like have, genuine, intentional conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's the easy first step because we all are our own experience. I say this all the time. I am only as good as I think I am at this work because of my network. If I don't have people like you, if I don't have people like anyone, right, that's different from me, I'll never forget. I had a call when I first started this work, and somebody talked about size inclusive furniture and how every single chair we had in our hospitals had arms on them and they were uncomfortable for people who were larger to sit. And
Mm-hmm.
I was mind blown
Yeah.
because that's not something that I had thought about.
Yeah.
But if I don't have these conversations and learn about, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what is your experience and open up for them to give me feedback or just, again, tell me their story, I would never know. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think the best thing, the easiest thing, again, that you can do is just start asking people, lead with curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easy way. Lead with curiosity. If you don't understand something,
Yeah.
find a kind way to ask
Yes.
ask the question.
I always say ABC, always be curious.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Yes, always be curious. I think that's
Yeah.
where I would start. Yeah.
Well, I want to end on a high note. I want to know what gives you hope about the future of vet medicine when it comes to DEI.
Yeah, I think for as loud as the negativity is and all the things that are really scary for a lot of people right now, that we are more knowledgeable than we have ever been.
Mhm.
And we are more open for everyone that seems like they're getting a little more closed-minded,
Mhm.
there's somebody who is even more open-minded. Um, I talked to our veterinary student, our new ER doctors rather, that join the company every quarter. And each quarter, I get more and more questions.
Oh.
Um, and they're more and more engaged in sharing their feelings. And that excites me. And I think that that is a representation of, again, the people that are coming into this industry. And I think that they feel I don't even know if it's safe, right, to be themselves, but I feel that they have a feeling that they deserve to be themselves. And I love this when we talk about different generations. Like, I think gone are the times where we just come to work to work. And I love these new generations because they're like, I'm not coming to work just to work. I want to do something I'm passionate about and I want to belong
Mhm.
and I want to be myself when I do it. And so I think I am hopeful that um, people are more mindful and open-minded to others and their experience. And so I think we will continue to create a more inclusive environment because we won't tolerate anything else.
Mm. I love that. So many wise words, Avery. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real treat to talk to you. I feel like I could talk to you all day about this stuff, and I just genuinely feel gratitude for everything you're doing for our profession. So thank you.
I could talk to you every day about anything. I feel the same exact way about you, and I'm so grateful that you had me on today. So really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks so much.